Hello students, today we are going to see this topic mathematical functions. So the header file that are used to include mathematical functions is math.h. So in the previous class we have seen string.h. Okay, so the functions that are available in the string.h is str, lower, str, upper, string lower, string upper, string concatenation, string compare, the string length, string copy, and you can see that these are all the functions that are available in string manipulation, which is string.h header file. So in this class we are going to see this mathematical function. So in this mathematical function there are two functions, which is cos and sine. So you can see that the cos function takes a single argument in radians. Radians is the radians means it can be in a degree form or in the radian form. So the cos function returns the value in range from -1 to 1. Okay, so the return value is either in double, float, or long double. Okay, so here you can see that this is an example. So double x is equal to 0.5 and the result is equal to uh, cos of x. So cos of 0.5, which is the value is displayed in the output. Okay, so next is sqrt. Sqrt means square root function. So whatever value that is given to this function will be given as a square root, and you can see that this square root function takes a single non-negative arguments, or which means non-negative values. It takes it, and if a negative value is passed to the square root, then it will provide domain error for that input. Okay, so here you can see that this is an example. Double x is equal to 625, and you can see that result is equal to sqrt, so which is the function, and x is given inside it. So sqrt 625 is the meaning, and the output is displayed as in that is provided here. Next is sine function. So this is also taking a single value as an input, either in radian or in degree value, and you can see that it returns the value from -1 to 1, and you can see that next function is power function. Okay, so the base value and the exponent function is given here. So the base value is the value that has to be multiplied. Okay, so exponent value means how many times the multiplication should occur. So this is the value, or this is the format for this function, using this function. And you can see that all this function has to be included in math.h. So if you want to use this function, then you have to use this instruction hash include uh, math.h. Okay, so base value is 5 here. In this example you can see that base value is 5 and exponent is 4, and result is equal to power bracket base and exponent. Okay, so you have to be careful with this. So if you change the order, okay, say for example if you give the value as the if you provide the value for base value as exponent value, then the total meaning will be changing here and you will be getting a wrong output. So you have to be careful with that. Okay, and they have also used the sine function sine 25, and you can see that this is the output of it. So next is user defined function. So far we have seen the predefined function or built-in function. So the user defined function is that the function which is available in the function that we create by the user. Okay, the functions that are created by the user for their own uh, set of tasks. Okay, so this is user defined function. We'll see how it is created. So here you can see that we can also define new function to perform specific task. These are called user defined function. The user defined functions are created by the user. A function can optionally define input parameters that enables caller to pass arguments to the function. Mm, a function can also be optional return value as output. Okay, so either it is tailor made. Okay, so the function user defined function is tailor made, which means that you can, if you want, you can get input from the user, or if you want, you can display the output to the user. So everything can be determined by the person who is by who is defining the function, who is creating the function. So we'll see that. So next is function definition. So before creating that, you have to define that this word is a function. Okay, so this is a function, so you have to denote the compiler that this is a function. So that is the procedure here. So return type. So what is the return type? Either you can give the return type as integer, so then this will return, or it will display the output as integer format. So if you doesn't need any of the uh, output, or if you doesn't want any value from this function, then you can give that as void. Void means it will returns, it doesn't return anything to the calling function. Okay, calling function, there are two things here. So one is calling function and the return. Okay, so the main program will call this function, so that the execution will be transferred from the main program to this function. After finishing finishing the task of function, it will get back to the original place where it is called. Okay, so while going back, it may take some value from the function and return there. So that's why it is given as return value. Okay, and you can see that these are all the points that has to be noted while creating a function, user defined function. The return data type is any valid data type. So there are four fundamental data types: integer, character, float, and double. So these are all the four fundamental data types. So this must be provided there. So int, char, float, and double. So next is the function name is a user defined identifier. So it must be an valid identifier. So in the previous chapter, we have seen how to name an identifier. So there are some rules for creating names or identifiers. The parameter list, which is optional, is a list of parameters, that is a list of variables preceded by the data types, preceded by the database and separated by comma. So if you are creating a function for calculating volume of a room, then you need three parameters: height of the room, and width of the room, and the length of the room. So each uh, each input must be provided with a data type. Okay, so either it can be integer value or it can be float value. Everything must be provided uh, in the parameters list. Okay, and each parameter must be separated by commas. And the next thing is the body of the function comprises of C++ statement that are required to perform the intended task in this function. So if you want to do that specific task, then you have to code that as a task in this section. So next is function prototype. So this is the function definition, and the function prototype is that. So this function prototypes contains any number of functions, but it must have only one main function. So every project has only one main function, and you can see that you can have multiple number of user defined function included in this. So the compiler will first look through this main function, and then only it will move on to the next. Okay, so this main function first and this is the main function that will be executed in the first, and you can see that the variables which are declared here can be transferred, or the values that are given in the main function can also be used in the function that is created. So here you can see that they have given one example to how to create a function. Okay, so return type is equal to long, and the fact is the function name, and these are all the parameters or arguments. Okay, integer and double. So two values must be given, and you can see that the two values is integer and a double. So this is what it is explained here. So the return type is long, and the fact is the name of the function, and it has two arguments. The first one is data, integer data, and the second one is double data. And you can also use this void function. Okay, so this void as a return type, which means that it does not return any value. Here you can see that they have given an example for void. Okay, void function and void. Okay, so which means that it's not getting any value, and it is not returning any value from the user. Okay, so these are all the example with the return type and with the arguments. Okay, so the first one, display, uh, does not return, okay, the calling function without return value and without any argument. So there is no return, the value is not returned by the function to the computer, or you can see that any input is given to the function, it is not given. Okay, so next, number 2, display x comma y. So here you can see that two inputs are given to the display function, and in the third one, uh, uh, there is no input given to the function, but you are getting some output from the function display, which is stored in x, variable x. So next is this fourth one is x is equal to display of x comma y. So this function is getting some input x comma y from the user and providing the output as return value, which is stored in x. Okay, so next is formal parameters and actual parameters. So formal parameters means uh, the parameters that are created by the user defined function. Actual parameters means the parameters that are created in the main function. Okay, main program. So in this example you can see that clearly. So the actual parameters has a different name, and formal parameters has a different name. So in the main program you can see that they have created two integer value x, a comma b. While calling the function some a comma b, this value a comma b will be transferred to this x comma y. So a comma b is actual parameters, and x comma y is the formal parameter. So there are some default arguments, so which means that while creating the function itself, if you are creating some values, so that if you want to use the function, then you have to definitely give that particular value. Okay, so that is a default argument, and you can see that some of the functions are constant argument. So if you want to give the argument as constant, okay, so the value which is provided by the user is converted as constant, then you can see that this is constant argument. So there are two types of input that can be given to this function. So that is const argument or default argument. So here you can see that this is the or this is an example for const argument and default argument. So here you can see the double area. So in that they have created constant double r. So r is a constant argument, and the constant uh, double pi is equal to 3.14. So uh, this is a constant value, and you can see that these two things are default arguments. So r and pi are the default argument, but it is given as a constant variable. Okay, so sorry, constant data, which means that throughout the execution of the program, this r value and the pi value does not change. Okay, so this is the example of that. So if the variable value r is changed as r is equal to 25 inside the body of the function area, then the compiler will throw an error as assignment of read-only parameters r. So if you are trying to change the value of r inside the function double, so then this will create an error in this compile time program. So that's what it is given here. So r is equal to 25. So if you try to change that, then it will create some error. So with this, we'll finish the class today. We'll see the method of calling function in the next class. Thank you, students.